Welcome back to my channel. This is the final part of the Taekook fan fiction, where he slept with a stranger not knowing he will be his boss. Are you ready? Let's start. The office was quiet except for the soft tapping of keyboards and the occasional rustle of papers. Taehyung tried his best to focus on the stack of reports in front of him, but his hands were trembling too much to type properly. The reason sat just a few feet away. Jungkook, immaculate as ever in a dark tailored suit, had been watching him all morning. Not discreetly, not in passing, watching, like a predator with endless patience. Every time Taehyung dared glance up, those sharp eyes were waiting, burning through him until he quickly looked down again. His co-workers were already starting to notice the strange tension. It only got worse when Jungkook finally stood. He crossed the floor with slow, measured steps, the kind that made every employee straighten in their seats. He stopped at Taehyung's desk, leaning down with one hand braced on the polished wood, caging him in. Taehyung's throat went dry. Sir? Did you need something? Jungkook bent lower, close enough that his cologne curled around Taehyung like smoke. His lips hovered by his ear, his voice low, wicked, and meant only for him. Did you sleep well last night? Taehyung nearly choked, his pen slipping from his fingers. His co-workers glanced over, curious, and Jungkook's smirk deepened. He whispered again, softer, dirtier this time. Your legs were shaking when I carried you out of my car. Do they still hurt? Taehyung's entire face burned red. Please, he whispered back, panicked. Jungkook chuckled, the sound dark, vibrating against his skin. Careful, everyone's watching. They'll think I'm flirting with you. He let his lips brush just barely against Taehyung's ear. But only you know how true it is. Taehyung squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself not to make a sound. But the corner of the office was already buzzing. Whispers, exchanged glances, the unmistakable ripple of gossip. Sir, please don't. Taehyung hissed under his breath, gripping his pen tightly. Jungkook straightened, towering above him, and gave a deceptively professional nod as if nothing had happened. Good work. Keep it up. And with that, he walked away, leaving Taehyung flushed, trembling, and acutely aware of every pair of eyes following him. By lunchtime, the office was alive with hushed rumors. Did you see the way the CEO was leaning over Kim Taehyung's desk? They're always together lately, aren't they? Do you think they're? Taehyung buried his face in his hands, wishing for the ground to swallow him whole. Meanwhile, Jungkook sat back in his glass office, smirking as if he could hear every whisper through the walls, and enjoying every second of it. The boardroom was packed. Executives lined the long glass table. Assistants and interns sat quietly in the back rows. And at the head sat Jungkook, flawless in a charcoal suit that commanded silence with his very presence. Beside him, as always, sat Taehyung, clutching his notepad like it was his lifeline. The meeting was supposed to be serious. Numbers, projections, contracts. But Jungkook had other plans. From the moment it started, he kept leaning close to Taehyung under the guise of discussing figures. His breath brushed over Taehyung's cheek each time, his deep voice low enough that no one else could hear the exact words. But the tone was unmistakably intimate. At one point, Jungkook reached out, pretending to point at a chart in Taehyung's notes, his hand deliberately brushing Taehyung's thigh beneath the table. Taehyung jolted, nearly dropping his pen. and the sound of a stifled chuckle escaped Jungkook's lips. "Relax," Jungkook whispered smoothly, his lips almost grazing Taehyung's ear. "If you keep squirming, they'll all know what I did to you last night." Taehyung froze, his entire body going rigid. The color in his cheeks spread down his neck, impossible to hide. Several board members were already exchanging subtle looks. Whispers began among the assistants in the back. Taehyung tried to focus on the presentation slides, tried to breathe normally. But Jungkook wasn't finished. Halfway through, he deliberately placed a hand on Taehyung's chair, so close it looked as though he was practically holding him. And when a senior executive asked a question, Jungkook smoothly redirected it. "Taehyung, why don't you answer that? I trust your judgment." All eyes turned to him. Taehyung stammered, heart hammering in his chest, words tumbling out in a broken rush. He managed to answer, but his voice shook, betraying him. The room went silent afterward, and Jungkook's smirk grew. When the meeting finally ended, Jungkook stood tall, adjusting his cufflinks with elegant ease. As the employees filed out, their hushed gossip was louder than ever. "Did you see how close they were sitting? He practically ignored everyone else just to talk to him. It's obvious, isn't it? The CEO and his secretary." Taehyung hurried to gather his papers, mortified, but Jungkook's hand suddenly pressed against the small of his back, guiding him out of the room as though he were claiming him in front of everyone. "Good work today," Jungkook murmured with a smile. That was polite for the room, but his eyes told another story. "Come to my office. Don't make me wait." The entire floor watched them leave together. By the end of the day, there wasn't a single employee who wasn't whispering about their CEO and his secretary. The office was unusually busy that afternoon. Papers rustled, phones rang, and yet Jungkook's sharp eyes never left Taehyung. He had noticed the way his secretary's hand kept trembling, the way his skin looked pale as he tried to steady himself over his desk. Then it happened. Taehyung swayed, knees buckling, and collapsed onto the floor. "Taehyung!" Jungkook's voice thundered across the hall. Within seconds, he was at his side, strong arms scooping him up as employees gasped and murmured in alarm. "I'll take him," Jungkook barked when someone suggested calling an ambulance. His hold was firm, protective, daring anyone to question him. At the hospital, the sterile scent and fluorescent lights felt too harsh against Taehyung's fragile state. He sat nervously on the examination bed while Jungkook refused to move from his side, his large hand covering Taehyung's smaller one. The doctor finally returned with the results, flipping through the file before looking up with a kind smile. "Congratulations, Mr. Kim," the doctor said gently. "You're pregnant." Taehyung's world tilted. Pregnant? His lips parted in shock, and his heart raced so hard he thought he might faint again. The doctor hesitated, then asked softly, "And, may I ask, who is the father?" Silence filled the room. Taehyung's throat locked up. His mind replayed that reckless first night, the way he had drunkenly danced in Jungkook's lap at the club, teasing him until self-control snapped. "It was my fault. I tempted him." His lips trembled, but before he could answer, "I am." The words cut through the silence, firm and absolute. Taehyung's eyes shot to Jungkook, who stood tall, gaze unwavering. "I'm the father, and I'll take responsibility." The doctor simply nodded and stepped out, leaving them alone. But the words "take responsibility" burned in Taehyung's chest. As soon as they got into the car, Tears spilled down his cheeks. "You don't have to say that," Taehyung whispered brokenly, staring out the window. "You don't have to take pity on me just because I was careless. That night was my fault. I shouldn't have thrown myself at you. If you feel guilty, stop." Jungkook's voice was sharp, commanding. He pulled the car over and turned fully toward him, eyes blazing with a mix of anger and raw emotion. "Don't you dare call that night a mistake," Jungkook growled, his hand gripping Taehyung's chin so he would look at him. "You think I touched you out of guilt? Out of pity?" Taehyung's breath caught, his tears streaming faster. "You are the love of my life, Taehyung," Jungkook said, voice lowering but growing even fiercer. "From the moment you walked into my office, I wanted you. That night at the club, you didn't tempt me. I lost control because I've been burning for you for too damn long." Taehyung's eyes widened, lips trembling. "And now," Jungkook continued, pressing his forehead to Taehyung's, "you're carrying our child. Mine. That's not something I'm running from. It's everything I've ever wanted. You're mine, Taehyung. You always have been. And I'll prove it." Taehyung's breath hitched, his sobs quieting. "Prove it." Jungkook's lips brushed his, the whisper scorching against his mouth. "By marrying you, by protecting you, by loving you every damn day for the rest of my life." Taehyung broke then, falling into his arms, clinging to him as if his very heartbeat was the only anchor left in the world. And Jungkook held him tighter, as if he'd never let go. The whispers had been growing louder around the office. Employees talked behind Taehyung's back, glancing at him when they thought he wouldn't notice. "Why does the CEO treat him so differently? Do you think they're?" Taehyung fainting, then the boss rushing him to the hospital? Something's definitely going on. Taehyung had never felt so exposed. Even when he kept his head down, his cheeks burned with humiliation. The only thing keeping him steady was Jungkook, who seemed completely unfazed by the rumors. In fact, he seemed to enjoy fueling them. Every chance he got, Jungkook leaned down, whispering filthy things into Taehyung's ear in front of others. "You look so sweet when you blush like that, baby. Careful bending over in front of me. I might drag you into my office right now. I should mark you where they can see, so they all know you're mine." Taehyung nearly combusted each time, tugging at Jungkook's sleeve in embarrassment, eyes darting nervously to the watching staff. And then, one Friday afternoon, Jungkook did something no one expected. The employees were called to the lobby for what they thought was an announcement about a new project. Taehyung stood quietly among them, clipboard in hand, heart pounding. He wasn't used to so much attention already. He just wanted the stares to end. But then Jungkook appeared, walking toward the center of the room, his powerful presence silencing the entire floor. He held something small in his hand, glinting under the lights. And then, shockingly, he turned not to the crowd, but to Taehyung. Kim Taehyung. Every head snapped in his direction. Taehyung froze. "Jungkook." Jungkook's gaze softened, but his voice carried through the lobby. "You've been by my side as my secretary. You've stood against my temper, my stubbornness, my endless teasing. You've made me laugh. You've driven me insane. And without even realizing it, you've made me fall deeply in love with you." The crowd gasped. Taehyung's knees felt weak. Jungkook stepped closer, eyes never leaving him. "I won't hide it anymore. You're not just my secretary. You're the person I want to build my life with. The one who's carrying my child. The one I want to protect, cherish, and love forever. The room was silent, hearts beating fast. Every employee hanging on the CEO's words. And then Jungkook did the unthinkable. He sank down on one knee, pulling out the ring box. "Kim Taehyung," Jungkook said, his voice thick with raw emotion. "Will you marry me?" The room erupted in gasps, some people even clapping without realizing it. Taehyung's entire body trembled, tears filling his eyes. He covered his mouth with one hand, overwhelmed. His heart screamed yes 1,000 times, but the words stuck in his throat. "Jungkook," he whispered, tears spilling down. Jungkook reached for his hand, squeezing it tight. "Say yes, baby. Say you'll let me love you for the rest of our lives." And finally, Taehyung nodded, sobbing. "Yes, yes, Jungkook. I'll marry you." The lobby exploded in applause, laughter, and cheers. Some employees wiped their eyes. Others whispered about how unreal this was. But Jungkook didn't care about anyone else. He slid the ring onto Taehyung's shaking finger, stood, and kissed him, deep, shameless, passionate, right in front of everyone. For the first time, Taehyung didn't pull away. He kissed Jungkook back, arms curling around his neck, letting the entire world see. Because in that moment, nothing else mattered. That evening, Jungkook didn't let Taehyung go home alone. He guided him gently into the penthouse, hand at the small of his back as if Taehyung were fragile porcelain. Taehyung's eyes were still swollen from crying in the car. He was ready to retreat, to curl up under the sheets and hide from the world, but Jungkook wouldn't allow it. "Do you think I'd ever touch you out of pity?" Jungkook's voice was low. The door clicked shut behind them, muffling the world outside. The silence of the room was thick, almost electric, broken only by the sound of Taehyung's unsteady breath. Jungkook leaned back against the closed door, dark eyes fixed on the man before him. A smirk tugged at his lips. "Why do you look so nervous, baby?" Jungkook murmured, his voice low, dangerous with affection. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until Taehyung's back brushed the edge of their bed. "You're mine. You know that, don't you?" Taehyung swallowed, his lips parting, but no answer came. Jungkook chuckled softly, closing the gap and tilting Taehyung's chin up with his fingers. Their lips met. At first, a feather-light kiss, just a tease. He pulled back too quickly, leaving Taehyung chasing after him. "Already needy?" Jungkook teased, brushing his mouth just close enough to graze Taehyung's lips again. "Say it. Say you want me." When Taehyung whispered, "I want you," Jungkook rewarded him with a deeper kiss, hot and slow, devouring. His tongue slid against Taehyung's, stealing every bit of air, his hands sliding down Taehyung's waist. He kissed him until his legs grew weak, until Taehyung clutched at his shirt like he'd fall without him. Jungkook finally broke away, lips wet, voice husky. "God, I love how you taste, so sweet. Mine." He kissed down Taehyung's jaw, whispering between every brush of lips. "No one else gets this. No one hears you the way I do when you're begging. Only me." His hands were shameless, gliding beneath Taehyung's shirt, tracing skin with a touch that burned. Each time Taehyung gasped, Jungkook smirked against his skin. "That sound," he murmured against his throat, "drives me insane." The kisses grew hungrier as Jungkook eased Taehyung onto the bed, pressing him down against the sheets. Hovering above, his dark hair fell over his eyes as he looked down at him like prey he'd been starving for. Do you even know what you do to me, Tae? His voice was rough now, filled with restrained hunger. His hand slipped to Taehyung's wrist, pinning it above his head, while his other hand traced teasingly down his chest. Look at you trembling. You love when I take control, don't you? Taehyung's eyes fluttered shut, but Jungkook leaning close to whisper against his lips. No hiding. Open those pretty eyes. Watch me ruin you tonight. Every touch, every kiss became more demanding, his whispers dirtier, his words dripping with possession, reminding Taehyung over and over that he belonged to him. You're mine to touch, mine to kiss, mine to love. The room was filled with their breaths, with whispered pleas and shameless declarations. Jungkook teased him endlessly, dragging out every second, until the tension was unbearable, until Taehyung was shaking beneath him, lost in the heat of his husband's touch and voice. And then Jungkook gave in. When the final moment came, it was like fire consuming them both. Taehyung's breath hitched, Jungkook's name spilling from his lips like a broken prayer. Jungkook pressed his forehead to Taehyung's, gripping him tightly as if he'd disappear. His whispers grew frantic, hoarse, but still laced with love. Mine, mine, always mine. The world seemed to shatter around them as they reached the peak together, intense, overwhelming, hearts pounding in perfect rhythm. Jungkook kissed him through the tremors of release, desperate and tender, until Taehyung collapsed against his chest, breathless and trembling. Silence returned, but now it was heavy with satisfaction, with warmth. Jungkook stroked Taehyung's hair, pressing soft kisses against his temple. I'll never let you go, he whispered, still breathless. Not in this life, not in any. As weeks passed, Taehyung's once flat tummy slowly began to round, small at first, then unmistakably growing with life. Every morning, Jungkook would pause his rush to the office just to kneel down, brushing his lips against the curve of Taehyung's belly, whispering, "Good morning, my little star. Daddy loves you." Taehyung would blush, hiding his face behind his hands. Kookv, not every morning. Every morning, Jungkook cut him off with a firm kiss on his lips. Because both of you are mine. At the office, the changes in Taehyung didn't go unnoticed. His hand would drift absent-mindedly to his growing stomach during meetings, and Jungkook always noticed. Once, Taehyung tried to carry a tray of coffee for the staff, but Jungkook rushed out of his glass office, startling everyone. Kim Taehyung. Jungkook's voice was sharp, but his hand was gentle as he took the tray away. You're not carrying anything heavier than a pen from now on. That's an order. The entire office froze. Taehyung flushed, tugging Jungkook's sleeve. Kookv, you're embarrassing me. Whispers spread through the company like wildfire. Their cold CEO was soft for only one person, his secretary-turned-husband, who now carried his child. Months later, in the middle of a rainy night, Taehyung gripped Jungkook's hand tightly. Kookv, it's time. His voice trembled, both with pain and excitement. Jungkook's world turned upside down. He bundled Taehyung into the car, heart racing faster than the storm outside. Breathe, love. Just breathe. I'm here. I've got you. Hours in the hospital felt like eternity. Jungkook never left Taehyung's side, whispering encouragements, pressing kisses to his sweat-damp forehead. His usually steady hands shook as he let Taehyung squeeze them through each contraction. Finally, a small, piercing cry filled the room. Tears immediately welled in Jungkook's eyes as the nurse placed a tiny bundle in Taehyung's arms. A baby girl, soft and pink, with the faintest pout that mirrored Taehyung's own. She's ours, Taehyung whispered, voice breaking as he looked down at her. Jungkook leaned over, his arm curling around both of them, his lips trembling against Taehyung's hair. Our era, our little heir, our breath of life. Taehyung looked up, tears spilling down his cheeks. Era, he whispered, kissing their daughter's forehead. Jungkook stroked the baby's tiny fingers, which curled tightly around his thumb. His chest ached with a love so big it threatened to consume him. She's perfect, just like her papa. The three of them stayed like that. Taehyung exhausted but glowing, Jungkook unable to stop staring, and baby Era snuggled safely between them, as if the entire universe had narrowed down to just this small family. For the first time, Jungkook, CEO, leader, the man who carried the world on his shoulders, felt at peace. He had everything he'd ever wanted. The end. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked this happy ending. Please subscribe and like my video. And please come back for more heartwarming love stories of our Taekook. Love you all.